All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore something pretty fascinating today. What happens when artificial intelligence, a tool that's literally built to give us one right answer, comes face to face with ancient wisdom, a world where one question can have many right answers?
You know, this question sounds like the beginning of a sci-fi movie, but it actually gets to the heart of a very real, very current tension. On one side, you've got these incredibly powerful AIs designed to find the single, most likely, most probable answer. And on the other side, you have these ancient texts that were designed for the exact opposite, to be explored from countless angles for centuries.
See, at their core, large language models are just masters of statistics. They chew through mountains and mountains of data to predict what's most likely. The most likely next word in a sentence, the most common interpretation, the most statistically probable conclusion. They are, for all intents and purposes, optimization machines. Their whole job is to find the strongest signal in all the noise.
Now, that drive for a single, optimized answer is amazing for a ton of things. But here's the big question, the one we're digging into. What if the noise the AI is so busy filtering out isn't noise at all? What if all the richness, all the depth of a text is actually hidden in its ambiguities and its ability to mean different things to different people across time?
So to really get our heads around this dilemma, we're going to take a look at a tradition where having multiple meanings wasn't a bug to be fixed, but a core feature of how you understand anything. Let's dive into the world of classical Islamic scholarship. Okay, so the first concept we need to wrap our minds around is something called qirā'āt. Now, this wasn't about typos or mistakes in the text, not at all. It was a formal, incredibly rigorous system for preserving different but equally valid ways of reciting the sacred text that had been passed down. These tiny little variations were seen as intentional, as part of the divine design. And here's a perfect example of how this actually works. We're looking at the same Arabic word for the right path. One reading, which was popular in a place called Basra, is pronounced al-Rushda. Another one, from Kufa, is al-Rashad. Now, nobody argued about which one was correct. Both were accepted. They don't fight each other. Instead, they each create a slightly different shade of meaning, adding this incredible depth to a single idea. So building on top of that textual diversity, you get the second key discipline, which is tafsīr, or interpretation. This is the human, scholarly effort to understand the text. And, well, because the text itself had this built-in variation, the interpretations naturally just exploded outwards, creating this massive, beautiful landscape of meaning. For example, you can take a single term that has to do with, say, illicit gain. One famous scholar, Ibn Masud, he saw it as a pretty clear prohibition on bribes. But he also thought about the nuance of, getting a gift for just helping someone out. Then another scholar, Abu Hanifa, he focused on what it means for a judge. And a third, he looked at it through the lens of abusing power. The point is, none of them were trying to prove the others wrong. They were all just exploring the full ethical universe packed into that one single term. So this gets us to the really cool part, the philosophy behind all of it. I mean, why would these brilliant minds work so hard to preserve complexity instead of trying to get rid of it? It's because they saw the text's ambiguity not as a flaw, but as a sign of its divine depth. It's like each one of those valid readings, each scholarly interpretation, was seen as another window you could open to look at a truth so huge, so vast, that you could never capture it from a single flattened perspective. And the practical result of this was just incredible. This whole approach created a living, breathing body of knowledge that was super flexible and adaptable. It meant the text could speak to new generations, new cultures. It provided this rich ethical and legal framework that could handle complexity because, well, it was born from complexity.
Okay, so let's bring our AI back into this world of nuance. What on earth happens when a tool that's designed to find the one right answer meets a tradition that celebrates having many?
Well, the AI's fundamental programming would force it to look at all this beautiful, complex human diversity and see it as noise. That's it. From a purely statistical point of view, all these variant readings and minority opinions are just outliers. They're deviations from the most probable, the most common interpretation.
You can almost picture the process, right? First, it would just ingest everything, all the variants, all the interpretations. Then it would calculate all the probabilities to find the most frequently cited one. And finally, it would optimize by spitting out that one single answer as the meaning. And in doing so, it would just sideline centuries of human nuance as basically a rounding error.
So when you put them side by side, the contrast is just stark. The classical scholars' goal was to explore possibilities, so their method was to preserve ambiguity, which gave them this rich tapestry of meaning.
The AI's goal is to find probability, so its method is to eliminate ambiguity. And the outcome? A single flattened answer.
Look, this isn't just some abstract theological debate. This whole case study of ancient texts is really a powerful metaphor for a huge challenge we're facing in tons of other fields right now.
The risk of flattening complexity, of basically boiling down all our knowledge into a single, statistically approved version, is a danger in any field that relies on interpretation and, you guessed it, nuance.
I mean, just think about it. The stakes are really high here. Would you want an AI to give you the single, most probable meaning of a legal precedent in a court case? The one correct interpretation of a poem? The single optimized solution to a complex ethical crisis? In all these areas, just like with classical scholarship, the nuance is the meaning. It's the whole point.
Because at the end of the day, the act of wrestling with ambiguity, of debating it, that's what generates wisdom. It's in the messy exploration of different viewpoints and the appreciation for complexity that we actually learn something. And when we start to outsource that whole process to a machine that's designed to erase complexity, we risk losing the very thing we were looking for in the first place.
Which really leaves us with a final massive question for our technological age. If the ability to hold multiple truths at the same time is a key feature of human wisdom, then what essential part of ourselves do we sacrifice when we build tools that, by their very nature, demand a single, simple answer?